Welcome to Sharepoint Mastery Showcase, Episode 13, Sharepoint 2007 Beginner Project 1, Part 7, with your host, Keith Hudson. At Sharepoint Mastery, we help you master SharePoint one step at a time so you can control your own destiny.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
This is Part 7 of SharePoint 2007 Beginner Project 1, how to design and build a simple help desk ticketing system in under 4 hours, even if you've never used SharePoint before. So far in this series, we have taught you a method for analyzing a business process, how to navigate in a SharePoint 2007 site, how to create a new SharePoint site, how to edit the top-line menu, how to create a custom list, and we've looked at column types of single line of text, multiple lines of text, date, and choice. We're now ready to start building the ticket duration column. We want this column to show how long it took to resolve the problem after the ticket has been closed. One possible way to do this is to have a workflow populate the column once the ticket is closed. However, to keep this project a little simpler, we will instead use a calculated column. We'll show you how to use a formula that will do the calculation. We're back in our practice site at the list settings for the problem ticket list. We'll create a new column and call it ticket duration. We'll make it a calculated column because we need to put in a formula. A good way to learn how to write a formula in SharePoint is to try it in Excel. They're almost identical. In this case, we want our formula to use the if function and only show the calculated time if our status is equal to resolved. Notice we have to use quotes around strings. If the status is equal to resolved, then we want the duration to be date resolved minus date started. Otherwise, we'll just put a 0 into that field. Although it would be nice to know the duration of open tickets as well, SharePoint doesn't give us a simple way to do that, so we'll add it to our parking lot list. Here's a hint: when you're building a formula in a calculated column, you may need to build it up one step at a time. The formulas can be a little tricky, and if you miss a single comma or bracket or necessary punctuation, you'll end up with an error. I may want to do calculations on the number produced by this formula, so I make this, the output of this formula, a number. We'll let the decimal places be created automatically. They should always be integers. But if we later decide to make our date functions partial dates, that will be taken care of as well. I'll go back into my ticket duration column and add the space to the name. And now it's time to test that my ticket duration field and my date fields are working correctly. So let's go to our problem tickets list and create some dummy entries. Let's create a new entry. We'll just call it test 1 in our problem description. I'll select building 1. I'm not going to bother with a name or anything else, and I'll say OK. You'll notice that the View Edit button shows up as the title shows up as a quick view edit button. Test 1, building 1. I'm recording this on March 10th, 2011, so date started is correct. Status is open, ticket duration is 0, which is what we expect. Now I'm going to go back into that ticket and change the dates so I can test that ticket duration is working correctly for a closed ticket. I can click on the View Edit button on the little tiny drop down and go to Edit Item. And it takes me to the View Edit form. I'm going to change my start date to March 1st, my date resolved to March 10. If I can get it to open up for me, there we go. And my status to resolved. Now, my ticket duration shows as 9 days, which is 10 minus 1 is 9. So that's working correctly. You notice that when we were in the edit form, we didn't have to enter a name when we created the ticket at first, because we didn't make it a required field when we built the list. We should go back into the list settings and make each of the following fields required: name, phone, email, cube, and building, since those are all pieces of information we must have to be able to work on their help desk ticket. However, it's a lot easier to do our testing when we get to workflows without making those required, so we'll leave them for the moment and fix them later. Now it's time to move on to build our workflows, but before you can do that, you need to install SharePoint Designer 2007 on your computer if you have not already done so. We will show you in the next part how to do that. Thank you for joining us for this episode of SharePoint Mastery Showcase, presented by SharePoint Mastery, where we help you master SharePoint one step at a time so you can control your own destiny. Come visit us at www.spmastery.com.